Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, what you get on their side is schlock cinema, meaning they portray these spin offs and these series to be so unique, changing, and different. But what change have we seen over the past 5 years? The proliferation of DEI, changing the skin color of that individual and having some strange, new, weird story which is weird and different from canon. This debate is uniquely about the norm of those particular things and not just a debate about example of spin-offs and sequels, etc. We think there are a couple of reasons why their side cannot take this debate. The first one is on the idea of burden fulfillment and nuance to what really the norm of loose adaptation is. Because we can debate all day about whether these set of franchises are good or bad, shitty or not, but specifically, the strategy that their side tries to do falls outside this debate because the impacts that they want apply on both sides. Both sides of the house have films and movies and pop culture stuff existing to be able to challenge and critique society, navigate trends, and be able to have some sort of critique. Meaning, it's not enough for their side to say, we have examples of stuff that critique society that isn't nuanced to the norm of loose adaptation. And I think we went as far as saying that it becomes reduced to these like DEI interpretations of saying that these things are such, which become tokenistic at best. We think on their side, the harm with the norm of loose adaptation is you just have a path and outcome dependency on this particular source material. Meaning, a lot of the biggest franchises that we name are actually outliers and not the rules. Take a look at so many other spin-offs and series that suffered and fell to the wayside as a consequence. The second is the metrics of success in terms of popular media. Because there was somewhat of a tension in their case. Because what LO told us was like this slew of examples in terms of small different changes in Batman and stuff. But I question if that's really the norm of what that particularly does. That sounds like just defending that particular ecosystem, which in and of itself prove that there's just not much difference happening. Because when I was preparing my reply speech, I was like, to what extent are these sequels and spin-offs so different? Because of course they have to portray themselves differently. And sometimes there's none, right? Like what? Batman has some weird new storyline, or there's something with the US government or in the Vietnam War, those particular things. We think that it's particularly more than capitalism also. Because this is the harm of what Depp said. Depp concedes that, capitalism important, these people end up selling out. And we think it's actually false to say that more money equals more creativity because of the extension you get from my Depp Matthew, which wasn't responded to. You don't need $600 million fucking dollars to be able to make a movie. And we think that capitalism isn't the tipping point of this debate because movies and all of these films, as what we told you, are more about expressions to be able to forward ideology. In fact, we also respond to that when we said, what upside do you have there is all of these things are so gas already, and as a consequence, even in my speech, we told you a downtrend in terms of money being made in the box office. Fast and the Furious 10 is probably going to be ass. Ladies and gentlemen, what we probably get from their side is really just status quo, wherein movies, day by day, become less and less relevant. And as a consequence, it leads to particular brain drain. And if you bite the Kool-Aid of the harms of capitalism, you become the very sellout thing that you sought to be able to critique. And for all of these reasons, we are very proud to stand on side proposition. Thanks.
Thank you for that wonderful speech.